More and more people are doing it, getting this nipped and that tucked, this contoured and that sucked. It's all the rage. It's aesthetic medicine, and that's the title, in fact, of the newest show on this station, debuting next Wednesday. Its host, Dr. Theodore Lazaro, will stop by to answer my questions and your questions. Also today, my colleague and cohort, the sardonic, witty, and yes, even cute John McIntire, host of Night Talk, will be here. It is an incestuous kind of show today. It's also going to be a good one, so stay with me. Cullen on Cable starts now. My mic was on? Oh, it wasn't on. My producer in my ear was saying, what'd you say, incestuous? I meant by incestuous that both my guests are people who have programs on this station, so it's like all in the family. That's what I meant. And I thought it was obvious, but obviously it wasn't obvious, so I'm telling you what I obviously thought was obvious, what it was, incestuous. Hi. I'm Lynn Cullen. For the next hour, I'll be Lynn Cullen. For the next hour, I'll be here with you, I hope. That's certainly up to you. But this is interactive television, which means that you can call at any time you would like. 333-PCNC. Now, know that what I said is you can call whenever you would like. That doesn't necessarily mean, as some of you have discovered, that I will pick up the phone. But you can call. We try to get as many people in as we can, unless I'm having such a wonderful time myself that I refuse to let you in, but give it a shot. There are some days when I do nothing but push buttons and take calls, okay? So, we're going to be talking in a moment with a cosmetic surgeon, I guess would be the proper term, but I'll have to ask him. Aesthetic medicine is what he practices, which can do things that are not even surgical, I suspect. But it is, in fact, the hottest thing going in medicine now, and it is not unusual, where it used to be unusual, to know many people who have had some kind of cosmetic procedure done or other. Used to be extremely unusual for those procedures to be done on men, and now that is not unusual. So you guys now treading where we women have gone before. What it all means, I'm not sure, but we will be talking to Dr. Ted Lazaro in a moment. But first, to the big news today. Did you think for a minute that I was suggesting that the big news was that today, the fact that the president tomorrow is going to be a defendant in the dock, that William Jefferson Clinton will be on trial tomorrow with the House presenting its indictment and its case? No, come on, get with it. Where's your perspective? I mean, Michael Jordan, for my gosh, I think in 2 hours. In 2 hours, Michael Jordan is going to say he's not going to do it anymore, and got to get things, you know, let's get our ducks in a row. The heck with the president, the heck with impeachment. Michael Jordan's leaving. That brings us to what we call back talk. Come this way. This is today on the Today Show. It sort of caught my eye.
An era comes to an end today in Chicago, where in just a few hours, megastar Michael Jordan will announce his retirement.
Okay, now just stop right there. Okay, stop. This brings up a pet peeve of mine. In fact, there's no need to listen any further. We know the story, right? We've been listening to it for days. So, my pet peeve is, do you remember when news used to be that which had happened? Past tense. Newscasters would come on and say, and earlier today, blah, 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 blah. Or yesterday, yada, 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 yada. Or if it was really, if they were on top of it and television allowed this to happen, they would bring you to the scene of a story that was actually happening at that time. So news went from that which had happened to that which was happening, is happening now. The immediacy of television, and radio was able to do it too, to a certain extent, was just astonishing. But lately, and I've noticed it more and more and more to the point where I'm really ready to scream, newscasters see themselves as some kind of, I don't know, prognosticator, predictor, so that everything is in the future tense. And here's why I've got a problem with that. One, it takes all kinds of drama away from us. People who in older times would have been told that Michael Jordan has called a news conference for noon today. It is not certain what Mr. Jordan will say. Speculation could occur. But these things now are foregone conclusions. So what do we even need to listen to Michael Jordan at noon today? We know. We knew yesterday. They were reporting it 2 days ago. They start out with this sort of like speculation. Then they make pretty hard predictions. Then they go to the heavy-duty prognostications, the foretellings. They tell us what's going to happen, then they tell us it is happening, then they retell us what happened, and then is it any wonder we all sort of start to tune out? We get sick of it. What is wrong with things happening in real time? Why do we live this fast-paced life, and yet we have to know 3 days in advance that Michael Jordan will today? We always know ahead. That's what the news does now. Note it. Start noticing it. It's always what will happen. That's not what news should do. Let them wait until it does happen so they can really report on it instead of this. Why don't we just have newscasters set up with like balls, glass balls in front of them, and they can wear, you know, big hoop earrings and scarves around their head, and they can look like gypsy fortune tellers, and they can read tarot cards or tea leaves or disemboweled chickens. What is the point? Anyway, it annoys the heck. One of my peeves, That's why we call it Back Talk. Kevin, hello.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Hi. I'm one of your biggest fans.
But?
What do you mean, but?
Oh, I thought that sounds like there's a but coming.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But, well, of course there was. I mean,
of course.
But why? I don't understand why. The opening of your show has to have these, sexual innuendos and connotations. You must have some problems with your sexuality or something.
What sexual innuendo?
Well, I mean incestuous, and I mean Michael is not going to do it anymore. I mean, what is this?
You dirty-minded person.
Me?
Michael's not going to do it anymore. I didn't.
I mean, when nothing else works, I guess you guys have to just rely on shock TV or something. I mean, what is it with you?
I don't know. Well, we're having a plastic surgeon on in the next segment. Maybe tomorrow we'll get a psychiatrist, okay?
A psychiatrist?
Yes, and we'll ask what's wrong with me.
That's what I think. That might be a good.
Okay, you think we could take care of it in just a segment or two? I doubt it, but perhaps.
Oh, no, in New York, no. And I think you're probably looking in your case that you're probably going to need mega treatments. You're probably going to need. By the way, do you even have any insurance there?
Don't worry about my insurance. If I need a shrink, I'll get a shrink. Not to worry. Goodbye, Kevin. Goodbye. Well, he certainly had fun with that. Lisa, hello.
Hi, Lynn. You get some interesting callers.
I love it.
You were talking about this foretelling of the news.
Yeah.
There's one thing that really bothers me in relation to the weather. Like the snowstorm we've had in the last week or two.
Yeah.
Where the newscast will come on and they'll say, it's going to be 12 inches of snow, and that kind of just annoys me because it puts fear into people that they shouldn't go outside, and it makes them afraid to drive.
Yeah.
You don't even know if that's going to happen yet.
Well, but see, the weather portion of the news really is in the foretelling business, always has been. So they do have to make predictions. We do, and they're right sometimes and they're wrong sometimes. I'll agree with you in as much as often the way weather is presented, there's a sort of panicked, anxious, you know, batten down the hatches, run out to the food store and scarf up all the milk and toilet paper for some reason. You know, that kind of thing, and I agree with you. As for people driving, people can't drive in this stuff if you got in that gridlock the other night. But thanks for your call. Even Matt Lauer said about, when talking to Bob Costas about Michael Jordan, he said, you know, I'm a big fan of his, but we're covering this like it's the crash of the Hindenburg. I mean, all that's missing is the sobbing announcer. Oh, the humanity, the humanity. And it's true. It's odd, especially less than 24 hours before the trial of the sitting president of the United States of America. Well, no need. Michael Jordan's, he's leaving, to heck with it. He might even come back because he's left before, as you know. Big deal. I'll be back to find out about nips and tucks and all that stuff. Aesthetic medicine. Hello, hello, hello. Well, I want you to know that I've already had my first consult from the doctor here, and he said he doesn't think I need a shrink, and he doesn't even think I need him. And he is Dr. Theodore Lazzaro. Call him Theo, you said, or Ted, or...
It's fine.
Just call him. He'd like to be called. And in fact, you're starting a new show on PCNC. Next Wednesday it debuts in a week. Okay, called Aesthetic Medicine. Now, I had never heard that term, but as I hear it, I think it must mean using medicine to make people prettier or something. What does it really mean?
Yes, I think that's it in a nutshell, but aesthetic surgery that we've been practicing as plastic surgery has been something where we've known through the years that physical wellness goes hand in hand with mental wellness. When people look good, they feel good about themselves. But as plastic surgeons, we're doctors first, and correlating this with medicine and getting people to actually do preventive type things, we know prevention is much better than cure. So we look at people and look at them more holistically. Someone comes in for a facelift, for example. Years ago, we used to just take an aged skin and tighten it. Now what we'll do is we'll go through different measures of rejuvenating the skin and helping it to look younger and anti-aged, and then tightening it. Same thing with liposculpture. When we do a liposculpture on someone, we'll look at the whole person and see if we can get them on a proper weight loss program and then sculpt what isn't removed.
Aha! Because it used to be, I mean, if somebody goes in and has all that stuff sucked out of them, and then they just go back to eating the way they did, it's going to come back, isn't it?
That's exactly right. It's a lifestyle modification that will enhance them to live longer and look better in the process.
Okay. At what point, though, I mean, so if we're lifting and we're tightening and rejuvenating, at what point, I mean, when somebody's 85, do they say, ah, to heck with it already? I mean, you know, at some point I've seen people say, you know, she looks sort of weird because we know she's like over 70 and she's got this tight face.
I think it becomes an individual thing. 10 years ago, probably the average age that I saw people to do a facelift would be about 60, 59, 60 years old.
It's dropping, isn't it?
Now it's about 49. We have the baby boomers coming, and they don't want to see a big drop. They want us to maintain a maintenance and just keep it at that and maintain a look.
So you mean somebody, okay, so if you have, okay, at 49, you have it lifted a little bit, when would they come back to, I mean, gravity does what it does, so it's going to come back down. So you have people who you would do, what, on a 5-year plan? Every 5 years you get it ratcheted up a little bit?
Usually the average time something like a facelift would last is about 7 to 10 years.
Really?
And then they would gradually come back to the look that they were 7 or 10 years before. So it wouldn't just all fall down. And that's why it becomes more of a maintenance type of thing where you can do smaller procedures to maintain a look.
It's not like, timber! Here,
Right.
Here it comes. wondering, though, about the psychology of it. You noted that people who feel they look good physically feel better, that there's this interplay between our psychology and our physiology, in fact. But I'm wondering if sometimes somebody might come into your office, and it's quite clear. I mean, they don't like themselves. They don't like their skin, they don't like their face, and that, in fact, they don't need you. They do need a psychiatrist.
That's an important thing that you have to discern, because if expectations are not realistic, there's no procedure that's going to help that. If they're really doing it for the right reasons, they're doing it for themselves, not for any specific secondary gain. They're doing it because this is something that has bothered them, that they'll feel better about themselves. I get many people that come in and say, you know, I feel great, but I don't look great. I look like heck. I just want to look like I feel.
I want to look like who I think of as me.
Exactly.
And I don't. That some people's bodies look older than they feel inside. Men, I hear, are doing it more than they used to. You seeing more men in your practice?
Oh, yes, a much higher percentage. The percentage probably 10 years ago, again, it was about 85, 90% women. And now that's it's about 70% and 30% men.
And I bet that'll go up.
It's going up and
You guys are getting just as vain as we've always been. Hey, Dr. Theodore Lazaro, he's going to have his own show on Wednesdays at 12:30 here on PCNC, where he can answer your questions, although we've got him for a little bit more, so he can answer your questions right now if you'd like. And if you don't, I've got tons more. 333-PCNC, and we'll be right back.
The official transportation provider of Cullen on Cable is Pittsburgh Limousine, the one clear choice in transportation.
Talking to Dr. Theodore, or call him Doc, Theodore Lazaro. And your proper designation is, if I were to call you a cosmetic surgeon, is that correct? What do you say you are?
Actually, I'm a plastic and reconstructive surgeon.
Plastic and reconstructive
Yes.
surgery. You mostly working on people's faces these days, or are you doing the liposuction and that stuff?
No, I really do the entire gamut of aesthetic surgery. I do a lot of head and neck facials and eyelids, but we also do a tremendous amount of breast surgery, breast reconstructions after mastectomy, as well as breast enhancements and reductions.
Really, a lot of women are doing the breast enlargements?
Oh, yes.
Here's what I heard about them. Tell me if this is true. That, I mean, let's say, okay, you want some big breasts, so you get some big breasts. But if you lie, you know, that they're not natural, and that if you lie down, they're still sticking up, you know, where a natural breast would sort of like, you know, flow a little bit. But is that true? They stick right up, so then someone would know they weren't real.
Now, sometimes I think one of the things that could occur with a breast enhancement is you can get what we call a capsular contraction or a tight breast. And that's a low percentage. It should be about 4% of the time. In those cases, that's when that would occur.
Oh, really?
But again...
so it should act and look like a natural breast.
Exactly.
Okay. What's the biggest breast you ever put on somebody? I'm sure he doesn't like these questions. I can't help it. I mean, if somebody comes in and they're like a 34B, and they want to be... I mean, could you make them a double D, or would you say absolutely not?
Well, I think, is it possible to do that? I think, yes, that's possible. Is it advisable? The answer is no.
Of course not.
There's a lot of luggage that goes along with that, potential complications. My goal in doing a breast enhancement is to really get them to look sensual and natural, and not do something where you can say from across the street, well, that was a breast augmentation. It just doesn't look good either.
Yeah. So if the surgery is right for whatever, eyes, nose, face, it's not something that someone would say, oh, look, there's a nose job, there's a facelift.
Exactly. That's it in a nutshell, because you don't want to do a nose, which is going to be our first program, by the way, and say, oh, that's Lazaro's nose walking over there. You want to really individualize it and have it enhance the patient's features, but it looks very natural.
The New York Times had a story the other day about some doctor in New York who did noses, and people used to say, there's Dr. So-and-so, there's a Dr. So-and-so nose. These women, they were all teenagers who got his nose done, are now in their 50s, and some of them, believe it or not, have decided the little button nose that he put on everybody is not what they want anymore, and they're going back to almost have their old nose put back on them. Have you heard of that happening?
Well, actually, what becomes, again, back in the early 60s, the little ski chute nose and the little turned-up button nose was something that was desirable, and that's the kind of procedure everyone had. And what the realization has been is it may not match their features. So now as they grow into themselves, the nose doesn't match. It's a little teenager nose on someone who looks much more sophisticated. So now we're trying to do that and match it to their features, not only for now, but even as they age.
I've heard that liposuction has gotten a little less, it always looked like such a violent procedure to me. I remember seeing, you know, yes, make an incision, stick this tube in, and then you go like this, and fat comes flying out. I've heard that somehow it's a little, and you're really bruised afterwards. If somebody has their thighs done, you look like a truck ran over you for a while. Has it gotten a little easier?
Actually, much better. Bruising is very actually unusual now.
Really?
We do something called a tumescent technique, and the tumescent technique is where you put fluid into the area that you're going to sculpt. And that really decreases the amount of bruising you get, to the point that when you take off the dressings at 6 days, you don't see any bruising. And you see about probably 80 to 90% of the final result right at 6 days. This is really the difference between something of what we used to call liposuction and liposculpting. It's not semantics. It really becomes a sculpting procedure, and on the table you can actually see the lines that you want to attain, and it's much, much less harsh on the patient.
What's the more, is having fat from your stomach, I've heard that that can be painful afterwards. Is that?
Having it removed?
Yeah.
Well, there's two types of procedures that you think about when you're doing the stomach.
A tuck and a...
One, exactly. And a lot of that depends on the skin elasticity. When you do a liposculpting, you want the skin to contract so you can get the contours you want. The only difference in the stomach is oftentimes people have had multiple pregnancies, and it's like a rubber band that has been stretched a number of times. It won't come back to its original, so you might have to do the liposculpting but then take some skin out too, so you can get a flatter tummy.
Wow. I mean, you could look like Jacqueline Smith, who's going to be my guest, by the way, tomorrow. This is Sharon. Sharon, talk to Dr. Lazaro. Sharon? Hello?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, what's the difference between the CO2 laser and the erbium laser for wrinkles?
The difference between a CO2 laser and an erbium laser, the CO2 laser goes a little bit deeper. So for people where you really want to eliminate deep wrinkles, especially around the mouth, the lipstick bleed lines, it's difficult to get that with an erbium laser. An erbium laser is much more superficial. The benefit of the erbium laser is the downtime is less. Because it's more superficial, you don't stay red as long.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
When you say that you don't stay red as long, you're red because what? You're essentially new skin. There's new skin there when you...
Exactly. When you do the laser, you're taking off the superficial layers of skin. And the beauty of the laser is you have control. You can really, just like peeling the skin off of an onion, you can take it down very sequentially. You have to go deeper with deeper wrinkles. But what you're doing is taking off that superficial layer, so it's kind of like a deep sunburn. But usually within 10 days, you can be back in makeup, and you can be looking, be in the public eye without feeling self-conscious about it. But you'll still be red a little longer than that period of time, but yet you need to camouflage it initially.
Oh boy, so many possibilities, huh? Let your imaginations run wild. And note that Dr. Theodore Lazaro, his program Aesthetic Medicine, will be debuting on PCNC next Wednesday at 12:30, and he will be taking your calls. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you got me dreaming again about possibilities here. Hey, when I come back, my colleague, the king of nighttime television, John McIntire, joins me. Always fun. Stay tuned. production and all that.
I had no idea you put so much news out on your program the first thing in the morning. First, I find out that Michael Jordan has decided to become celibate.
When did I say that?
And then you're getting your breasts enlarged.
No, Jeff,
both of these celebrity tidbits are huge.
See, this is what...
It's going to make the AP wire this afternoon.
Yeah, that's what you got from... When did I say... Were you picking up on what that caller
No, I
said?
thought the guy was an idiot. I think he should...
No, I think he was... Don't you think he was kidding?
I think he was serious.
No.
When you said Michael Jordan wasn't going to do it anymore, I think he thought that was an attempt at sexual innuendo, and he was offended, and I think he should find a magazine, go behind some closed doors, and get it over with.
Gee, I thought it was tongue-in-cheek, so you see we all
Maybe you're right.
had a difference of opinion there. But you understood my incestuous line, didn't you?
Yes, I did, because
well,
the doc with the new show on PCNC and myself, in fact, you're on my program, you were a couple of weeks ago, and you are on a week from Friday in an exciting free-for-all with Sophie Maslow and Ruth Ann Baker. Imagine in one room, Ruth Ann Baker, Lynn Cullen, and Sophie Maslow.
Think of those three voices. I'm serious. All women who are known
Wait a minute, I didn't think of that.
Think of that. All women who are known for their voices.
Who are known for their sort of, in the view of some, depending on your point of view and how you hear, irritating
Everybody
voices.
hates, there's somebody,
Ruth Ann sounds like a teenage chipmunk, right?
Yeah, a little girl. And Sophie,
sandpaper, fingernails on the blackboard.
And then I've really never understood what the problem is with mine.
Well, you don't, sometimes I can pick up your Wisconsin accent sometimes.
Hey, I mean, geez. Hey, by the way, here's another news tidbit, speaking of that.
Oh.
Hey. Frances McDormand, you know, she's the one who did Fargo.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So you betcha. Well, she's in town.
Is she really?
Yeah.
Are you going to have her on your show?
No, I don't know where to find her, but she's making a movie.
How do you know she's in town if you don't know where to find her?
Hey, I read the paper, don't you?
Oh, no. I just listen to Lynn Cullen. I find out whose breasts are being enlarged.
I didn't listen. I mean, he didn't. I don't think he liked those questions about. But have you ever? I mean,
well, how's he going to host a show on any? And by the way, I think it'll be a real fascinating show. And suck up to the boss.
Okay.
But how is he going to host a show like that if he's embarrassed about breast enlargement?
Did you
questions?
think he was?
No, you thought he was.
Oh, okay. Well, see,
I couldn't really tell for sure.
We have a different perception. You thought, I thought, he thought, I thought Kevin, that caller, you didn't know. But anyway, whatever.
I decided to run for president, by the way.
Good for you.
I am, yes.
And what brought this on?
I'm going to run for president. I don't know. It just seems like that everybody in the country who is worthless and has many skeletons in their closet is running for president, and why not me? And I'm going to reveal a skeleton every week and then spend the next 6 days apologizing for it.
I love it.
And then the following Monday there'll be another skeleton.
What a great idea. So you're really going to come clean, huh?
Absolutely.
When's your first skeleton going to be up?
This Monday, as a matter of fact. In fact, why not just reveal it on this show right now? I stole a bag of Doritos when I was 9 years old at the Rudy's Thrifty Mart in Kankakee, Illinois. And I've never reimbursed them for it, and I'm really sorry. I'm sorry.
Do you think they're still in business?
Actually, no. When I go,
did that help drive them out?
I have visited, and it's now like Fred's Thrifty Mart or something. I don't know what happened to Rudy.
So there's no way to make good to
Apparently
Rudy.
not.
But if you really care...
I don't even know if there was a Rudy originally, but go ahead if I really care.
With Doritos?
Doritos. Just a little bag, not a huge, like,
just a little
snack
just
one
bag.
Of those, yeah.
You didn't have the money, or you just didn't want to...
I was possessed suddenly. I'm also, by the way, I'm very pro-intern. I'm heavily pro-intern, and that will be part of my platform. My whatever works platform.
All right.
Try a little of this, try a little of that.
All right.
Whatever works.
So tell me, to get serious for a moment. I'm starting to think.
Congratulations. I knew it was only a matter of time. I'm sorry. Go ahead. We're having some fun now.
I'm starting to think that they might convict him.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Why? Because this thing has not gone as prognosticated and scripted from day one. So because the popular wisdom now is, well, he can't be convicted. I mean, there's no way. That's exactly what's going to happen.
I think, first of all, that's a cool thing to say, because if it happens, then you look like you were out ahead of the pack. That's what I like to do, is make bold predictions, and then if they don't come true, nobody remembers it, and if they do, I'm a genius.
Are you assuming that that's what I'm doing?
No, I'm actually not assuming that, no. See, we're not on the same wavelength, though. I don't think there's any way in H.E. Double Toothpicks he's going to be convicted. I don't think he'll ever get 45 Democrats, or a significant portion of them, and as you know, he needs 67 altogether.
They don't have to get 45 Democrats.
No, what do they have to get? Let's see, if it's 55, 12 then. They need 12 Democrats, right?
Okay. You could probably get...
They'll never get 12 Democrats in a million years. I just don't believe it. I think because it is still highly partisan, that in the end the Democrats will be loyal, and that they won't get 12 to turn around on him. And I don't think there'll be any new evidence. We've heard it all before. They're not going to let the Jane Doe number 55 and 107 in.
Hey, so what do you think about Larry Flynt and the Bob Barr thing?
I think I am deeply troubled and saddened by this horrible, the politics of personal destruction are awful, but I'm loving it. I am loving it. That guy is the hypocrite from hell, and he is getting his, and he deserves it.
Yeah, he is dead.
Especially the pro-life guy approving and driving his wife to the abortion clinic.
Oh, but he denied it, so now he's lying.
He's a liar.
He's a liar.
Yeah.
Right. You really feel certain of that? So he's lying now, he's covering up, he's not yeah.
Absolutely,
Don't you think
absolutely. They're all incredible Southern lying hypocrites. Why do we get all these people from the South? I think it's time to secede.
I do too.
Bob Barr.
Redo the Civil War.
Trent Lott, who's proven himself to be a homophobe, and he too spoke to that white supremacist group, as you know.
The CCC, conservative, Coalition of Conservative Citizens.
Right, that sounds right.
Is that what they're called? They're unbelievable. It's the John Birch Society, the KKK reborn. It's white supremacy.
And both Barr and Lott claim that they didn't know it was a white supremacist group.
Oh,
they don't have highly paid staffs who can research who the hell they're talking to.
So you actually have Trent Lott's staff today coming out and saying, we refuse to say any more on this issue. The senator has spoken. He had no idea, and he is not in any way a member. They thought he was a member. In other words,
they thought Lott was a member of the group.
Thought he was a member. Lott's now saying he wasn't. You don't suppose he might be lying, do you?
Absolutely.
No.
He's another lying Republican hypocrite, and they will pay at the ballot box in the year 2000. What did I read? 13 of the 19 senators up for re-election, I think, came from states which Clinton carried in '96. So they're in a lot of trouble.
You heard of this website, We Will Not Forget?
I'm not sure. What's on it?
Well, it's people that are pledging money and all sorts of things to make sure that when the 2000 races come along, that all the people, this 2/3 of Americans who've been saying, stop this, cut it out, in fact, don't forget, because the condescension of the Republicans on this issue saying, well, they have the attention span of a gnat, we can get away with this, they're not going to remember.
Right, the House Republicans talking about the Senate Republicans. I was amazed that that insult was allowed to be put forth. What are they thinking?
What are they thinking? I'm telling you, the politics of personal destruction will continue apace. Payback is what's going to be coming. I can't wait. Kevin. John, what?
I was just thinking mic isn't on because I can hear that. Maybe I'm...
No. My mic's on.
Really?
John, yours probably is too, so...
All right.
John McIntire. Hello there, and welcome back. John McIntire is my guest, the host of PCNC's highly acclaimed program, Night Talk with John McIntire. Is that the correct title, or is it not with John?
Yes, it actually is with John McIntire.
That's right. Did it start out that way, or
it did? Matter of fact, they were going to call it like, you know, McIntyre's Moo Moo or something. But then Scott Jonesy Jones, the executive producer of the program, decided nobody would have any idea who the hell I am. So why would they watch McIntyre's Moo Moo?
Where did you come from?
I came originally from Kankakee, Illinois.
We understand where you ripped off the Doritos from Rudy's.
50 miles south of Chicago.
Yeah, but I mean, where did you come from when you came to here?
I was working in Tulsa, Oklahoma as a morning news guy. And as you know, as I've told you before, I've danced around the country doing local news in various places: Providence, Rhode Island, Orlando, Florida, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and Bismarck, North Dakota.
Hey, well, that's why you know how to do that. All right. Oh, yeah, you betcha. I bet it's cold there today.
Plus, my news director in Tulsa was from South Dakota, so I had a refresher course.
So do you prefer doing, you know, being unleashed?
I really do. It's amazing. And, you know, you've been unleashed for what? I don't know, a couple of decades now, I would assume.
Yeah.
I've only been unleashed for 2.5 years.
It's fun, huh?
It's a heck of a lot of fun, yeah.
Much more fun than being a newsman.
Yeah, than being a newsman and being allowed to have absolutely no personality. Yeah. And you can't have any opinions either. Of course, you develop them covering the news.
Yes,
one would assume, but you can't reveal them.
Well, do you share my gripe about the news now talking always about what's going to... I mean, by the time it happens, it's always anticlimactic. You didn't hear my rant.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did hear that.
It bugs me. Just tell us what happened or what is happening. Stop with all this. What is the point? I mean, by the time we get... No one ever is able to make an announcement. You're never surprised anymore.
But don't you want to know as soon as you possibly can the news? I want to know.
First. You always have to be first. The quickest is best.
Right.
It's nonsense. It's not...
Well, if you can't... There's nothing to hype if you don't hype that we're the first and the best and the loudest and the fastest and the coolest and the freshest.
How about the most qualitatively correct?
People don't watch quality, Lynn.
That's true.
That's why they're watching this show.
That's right. I knew you were going to say
Yeah, I know.
It was easy.
Yeah,
Kathy, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Hi.
Hi, I have a comment. I just read Maureen Dodd's column in the op-ed page of the Post-Gazette.
Isn't that a great one?
Oh, my gosh, I laughed myself silly.
Well,
I'd like you to make some comments. I hope you have it in front of you. It was,
you know, I don't, because it was originally in the New York
Sunday
Times.
Times? What was it about? I read it then, but I've forgotten, frankly.
Refresh me, because I remember reading it on Sunday.
It was absolutely hysterical. I'll just tell you one part.
Go ahead.
They're talking about what a solemn event this is.
Okay.
And she says, wrong. Lo, no, wait. These many years later, the curtain parts again, and like hello, as Monica would say, what do we see but a grotesque and hilarious sight of a bunch of out-of-touch white guys trying to fathom sex, truth and sex, the same old boys club, once again slouching towards C-SPAN to instruct America on the perils of sex in the federal workplace.
That's right, slouching towards C-SPAN.
Isn't it incredibly embarrassing and appalling that the fate of the presidency hangs upon whether or not Bill Clinton touched Monica Lewinsky's breasts?
It's absurd!
He says he didn't. She says he did.
And so I'm just hoping that
here it is.
It doesn't testify. But thank you again.
Thank you.
Enjoy your show.
Thank you.
Is that not just bizarre? If somebody told you 5 years ago, by the way, there's going to be a huge presidential scandal, and if the president touched this intern's breasts, he could be thrown out of office. If not, he might get to hang around for a while.
Well, you imagine what historically, how this is going to read? I mean, you're fools, you people who are going, you're his tormentors. But it is. Maureen Dodd, and it's reprinted in the Post-Gazette today. It's wonderful. She paints such a great picture of the Republican managers. That's what they're called, Hyde at the head, and they're all, you know, stern-faced, heading over to the Senate.
And the notion that Henry Hyde is bipartisan is absurd.
Henry Hyde lumbering, which is probably the perfect word, lumbering across the marbled halls.
He is living proof that weebles wobble, but they don't fall down.
Leading that pack of gray-haired, gray-faced, gray-suited, and gray-spirited fogies. And she points out that they looked more like gaudy Florida retirees hurrying to get to the early bird buffet.
It is. It's hysterical.
Well, so there's part of me that's enjoying this because, you see, we're laughing a lot.
Right.
But it's not funny.
Do you think the House managers, well, not the House managers, do you think the Senate will manage to contain the House managers enough to give this trial some air of dignity? No,
and I think this nonsense that the Senate is somehow dignified is nonsense, too.
I agree. They have postponed the bloody fighting by postponing the vote on whether or not they're witnesses.
It's absurd.
But they haven't solved anything.
No, they are not. They are really not much removed. Maybe the Senate historically has been a body that is made up of more contemplative, thoughtful statesmen. But all of a sudden, they all Robert Byrd stands up and says, "We've got to be statesmen." So what? Like that? All of a sudden, Rick Santorum, who is anything but, is now a statesman. Have you noticed that? Oh, I know you.
Who's the guy who did somebody else did a column in the New York Times on Sunday that talked about how disgusting it was that Strom Thurmond and William Rehnquist were part of this. Rehnquist, who I did not know previously, was accused of being a racist. He signed a couple of deeds.
He had restrictive covenants,
exactly.
Not allowing people of the Hebrew race.
Right. You would not have been able to buy a house near Bill Rehnquist.
No. And, and his house, that was in his vacation home, and then he didn't want anyone non-white buying up his...
And Thurmond, who opposed civil rights.
And still does.
Right.
The tang-colored Strom Thurmond. Yeah, that was written by Bob Herbert.
Right, there you go.
Yeah, Bob Herbert.
What do you think of the Supreme Court Chief Justice?
Oh, it's supposed to make us think that he's so human, and he's got such a whimsical nature.
It's just silly.
It's stupid. He is a racist. They're all, I mean, these people, these high-minded people, the rule of law is so very important. They stand in judgment.
There's that damn music again.
Well, because I have to take a break. And we'll be back. Paul, your call coming up even as we take a break. McIntire is here, and who would think he'd be this sort of ebullient and jolly, clever, and all that stuff in the morning?
I had 5 tall skim lattes right before I came on the show.
Lattes, huh?
Tall skim lattes.
What's a tall skim latte?
It's just, you know, steamed milk and espresso. That's it.
I don't
and the milk is skim, as you might gather from the
You're a
title.
yuppie.
I like yuppie things. I'm embarrassed to say I like some yuppie food. I like some yuppie coffee drinks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it. Well, never mind. Go ahead.
It's okay. Paul wants to talk to you. Paul, go ahead. You're talking to John McIntire.
Yes, hi, good morning.
Hey.
The question is for Mr. McIntire. I wanted to know who his best guests have been on his night talk show. Thank you.
Other than me. You're welcome. Thank you.
I was just about to give the obligatory Lynn Cullen suck-up. Who were the best guests been on the program?
Who do you like? Yeah. In terms of...
I don't know.
That's always a tough question.
Every day is Groundhog Day. I've interviewed these people, all of them, like 5 times, and I'm running out of new questions.
Let's on the local scene. On the local scene. Who do you know that if they're coming on, you got a good show?
When I got the tall skim latte this morning, the guy behind the counter said to me, if you have Cyril Wecht in your show one more time, I'm never going to watch you again. And I said, well, do what you have to do. Because I like Cyril. I still enjoy the hell out of him. You had him on yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, but you know what?
He's hysterical.
I have trouble with him as a guest.
Yeah, well, that's because you won't be quiet long enough to let the guy pontificate.
I didn't do a thing yesterday. I mean, as the producer even said, all I did was every once in a while I would say, and we'll be back with Cyril Wecht after this, and then I would reintroduce him, and then he has a show. I don't like that. I do want to be more, I have trouble.
Well, you never know where he's going to go. He's hysterical. I mean, the other night we had the fire alarm go off in the studio during the show because we're just too low rent to get the fire alarm out of the studio. But anyway, Cyril comes back from the commercial and said, did you like how I saved Dennis Bowman there from the burning flames? I just yanked him out all of a sudden, and maybe he had to be there.
You know what?
But I mean, he's got a sense of humor.
Though, he does that more with you. I think you've got better chemistry.
And I also like, I have some good chemistry for some reason with Arlen Specter, who also loves, he's a big fat ham. And he loves to be on shows where he can be allowed to be silly.
Right.
He likes doing politically incorrect. I saw him on Crossfire the other day, and he was making with the yucks.
I saw him on CNN on Larry King, and he was making with the yucks, which I thought was not a good idea because he was on with these other senators. They were jurors.
Yeah.
They were talking about this, and he was like doing his Arlen thing that he likes to do when he's on TV, which is show that he's, got a sense of humor. I just don't think it's wise.
You brought up one of the House managers saying that the attention span of the senators was very short. And Arlen said to Bill Press, who was on the program, well, Bill, I think my attention span is fairly long. I was able to listen to every word of your endless question and understand it quite accurately. I can't really do it.
You do him good.
No, Dennis Bowman actually does him. I do Dennis Bowman doing Arlen Specter. Don't you do that? You hear people imitate people?
I can't mimic a soul.
No?
And I'm always so
You can do the Fargo woman.
Well, that's because I really used to talk this way.
I know.
I mean, I can't do anybody else. And you did Tom Brokaw the other night. Go ahead.
David Johnson, although, does a nice Tom Brokaw. Remember, he nightly news actually kind of do a drunken
You are.
Brokaw.
I know it's true.
Tom has had a few on New Year's Eve, and he likes to go to Loma Linda, California. I wish they all could be California girls. That's
a wonderful. He must be a riot at parties.
No.
Would you like to be invited to some parties?
I would love to be invited to some parties. When the hell are you going to invite me to some parties?
I never give. I'm not.
I do my little show. I go home.
Yeah.
I feed the cats.
It's a sad life.
It's a lonely world.
People think that he's got it all, and in fact,
I have nothing.
Not a thing.
Zippo.
Well, it's too bad.
All
right. So, locally, aren't you sick of the stadium stuff? Aren't you sick of Plan B? Are you sick of what? Is there any story that still intrigues you?
The county commission race intrigues me because...
county exec race.
County executive race, absolutely. I'm sorry. Even though I like Mike DeWitt a lot, I think Cyril's going to beat him.
Yep.
Jim Roddy is a guest on the Night Talk program tomorrow night.
That's good.
Tomorrow he's holding a news conference. Just a wild hunch that he's going to announce that he's going to run for county executive.
I agree.
So in the end, it'll be Roddy and Cyril, and that'll be a fascinating race.
Great race.
Because Roddy is smart enough to get under Cyril's skin, and when somebody gets under Cyril's skin, he's going to go ballistic. Right. It'll be hysterical.
So
Cyril's going to win, because as you also know, Mike DeWitt was the top vote getter in the last county commission race, even though the two Republicans ended up governing for a few months until the one left, as you know.
So Cyril Wecht,
don't you think?
As Lord of Allegheny County.
That will just be hysterical. There will be more yucks. We'll be able to milk that puppy for decades.
We'll have to stick around, all of us. Don't be leaving Allegheny County now that Cyril might run the joint. I think he will, too. I agree.
Oh, you do? All right.
Always a pleasure to
good
have
to see you.
So
Great to see you.
you'll see me a week from Friday. I'm going to be on John's show with Sophie Masloff and Ruth Ann Baker, the three most recognizable female voices in Pittsburgh. And there's brains behind those voices as well. Should be fun.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I'll be back. Well, excuse me while I'm doing my nails. Jacqueline Smith, woo, is going to be my guest via satellite, I suspect, but also Valerie McDonald, City Council of Pittsburgh, also my guest, talking about women in politics. Hope you'll be my guest, too. Have a good day.